Does your vice grip pile look like this?
Hey, yeah, let me grab you a vice grip.
Today on BleepinJeep, we're going to show you how to take nasty unorganized messes and turn them into nice organized tool holders.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I get real tired of having a mess of vice grips, especially when it comes to these bigger ones that take up space. These small ones I can fit in a drawer, but these ones, they just take up all kinds of counter space. So today, we're going to make a vice grip holder out of this 1/8" thick angle iron, and then we're going to weld it to this welding table. So first things first, I'm going to take each one of these vice grips and I want to measure the threads and the cap on these adjuster screws. And the reason for that is I'm going to be hanging them right here off the ends of their caps. And I also want to make sure that I have enough extra holes for future vice grips in all the sizes that I have, because you can never have enough clamps.
So now that I've measured all my vice grips, I found that I have 2 of the smaller ones, 8 of the smaller medium-sized ones, 4 of the larger medium-sized ones, and 6 of the bigger ones. Now what I also found out is the cap size on the larger medium and the largest are the same size. So even though this is a 7/16 thread and this is a 1/2" thread, I can get away with doing 1/2" holes for both and 1/2" notches to hang these, because they're the same size cap. They're both 3/4 inch on the outside of the cap. The reason I'm also measuring these is that exact reason. I want to make sure that my holes are small enough. If I drilled every hole at 1/2" to make a 1/2" notch, I'd never be able to hang these smaller ones. So I want to make sure that I have enough holes drilled, not only for these 2, but for probably a few more in the future. So the piece of angle I'm using is 4 foot long. So I've separated each hole 1.5 inches apart. And then for the small ones, I left 6 holes at the end at 1 inch apart. So this piece of angle iron is 2 inches by 2 inches, and it's an 1/8" thick. You could probably do different sizes, that's really up to you. This is my 4 foot line right here. I need to cut this. This was just torched off because that's how they'll do it at the metal shop to make it cheaper for a cut. I have my 6 marked for my small vice grips, and then everything else is 1.5 inches apart. Each one of these holes for the small vice grips will only need a 1/4 inch hole for it to hang. Everything else will take a 3/8 or a 1/2" drill bit. But I'm going to go ahead and drill all these with a 1/4 inch bit, and that way I have a good starting pilot bit for each one of these. The holes that I've placed, these second dots, these are all 1 inch in, and that's so the tool has room for each side of this angle iron. Maybe one day I may take this off and hang it on a wall or something like that. And if that's the case, I need to have that tool room on the inside, which I don't need for my welding table currently. So now I'm stepping up to my 3/8 drill bit. Now we just need to change out to the 1/2 inch bit. If you don't have a drill press, you can always do it with a hand drill. It just takes a little more effort. But I do have a drill press, so forget that nonsense. I'm going to use a flap wheel and just clean off the burrs from drilling the holes. So now that we have our holes drilled and all the right sizes where we want them, we need to come in here and we need to make cuts on each side of each hole so that we can slide our handles in. So we got a few options when it comes to cutting the angle iron. We can either use a sawzall with a metal blade, a grinder with a cutoff disc, or a porter band or bandsaw. This is probably going to be the most precise cut. It'll probably get you the straightest cut and the cleanest cut, but it's also probably going to take the longest. This will probably be faster, but you really have to make sure you hold it steady to get those cuts straight. I'm going to go with the grinder and the cutoff wheel. That's just because I like sparks. So one thing I noticed is I got to keep a real steady hand when I cut this to try to keep it as straight as possible. So the downside of using a cutoff wheel is now I'm getting so short that I'm having to get too close and I don't want to catch the upper part here. So even with half a blade left, I'm going to have to change out to another blade. So after taking the flap disc and cleaning this up on the bottom side where I had burrs and some leftover stuff from the cutoff disc, now I'm going to take that flap wheel and clean up each one of these corners and try to round them off a little bit so they're not so sharp. Whoops. So I measured the height that I want to come down, and the reason that is because I still want to be able to get clamps onto the welding table when I need to clamp something down to it. Little lesson here, don't cut steel over your rug, because the metal actually gets melted into the rug, and now I have to dig it all out. Because I don't want the tools to fall off when I'm rolling my cart around, I'm giving it just the tiniest tilt on it. If it was mounted to a wall, I could just mount it straight and not be too worried about it. But I went ahead and just took a chunk of that piece that I broke off and put it in right there. I don't know if you can see that or not. And all that is just a piece that I cut out here. And that's going to give my just tiniest bit of angle so that these slide in and stay lower here than they are up here. Well, I hope this video helped you guys out. It sure helped me out taking my nasty mess of vice grips and turning it into something a little more organized. If you guys have anything that you've taken that's a mess in your garage or shop and organized it somehow with something you've made, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Otherwise, if you give it a thumbs up, give us a like, make sure you subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I'll see you guys next time.